Hey all, Paintmarine here, and I am putting myself to a challenge. I am going to try and paint an army in 24 hours. Now that army is Deathwing Dark Angels. 2,000 points, but I'm not painting a full 2,000 points in the 24 hours because I went ahead and painted the green wing side of it. Just so this challenge is basically, can I paint just Deathwing in the 24 hours? So all in all, it's 30 models, 34 if you count the Watchers and the Teleport Homers, which I'm kind of torn on whether I'm even going to bother with them right now in this challenge. I'm probably just going to focus on everything else. But the rest of it is I have a Land Raider, a Ballistus Dreadnought, and a Brutalis Dreadnought. And then, 20 Terminators, with 10 of those being Deathwing Knights, so they're going to be a little bit more glammed up, so they're going to take a little bit longer to paint. And then an Ancient and Belial. So all that's 35 models. So yeah, I don't know how that's going to go. I'd have to do the math, not sure the math, but it's under an hour, obviously, right, for per model. And depending upon how I go with it, I don't know how that's going to go. So, yes, it's 24 hours. It's a time challenge, and more or less, it's just a fun thing for me to kind of see what can I get done in 24 hours. If I don't get them done, okay, whatever. I didn't get them done, but I should have gotten a good chunk of them done to where the final finish line to get them across is almost there. Like I said, I don't want to rush it. I want to see if I have. I don't have them in reach. Huh. Anyway, I was trying to find my essentially my test model, inspirational model that I did a few years back when they had the Deathwing Knight for the free model of the month. Got it painted up, and I love the way it turned out. I would love to do all of them in that same style and to that level. So that's not a quick thing, right? They're going to look, in my opinion, pretty dang good. But I also have a lot to do, and I want to get them done so I can get them painted and ready so I can try and get something that's good looking and ready to play in tournaments and stuff. Specifically, going back to Dark Angels, as I'll kind of explain as I do some of the voiceover, because there won't really be a lot to explain. My plan is, to kind of like show some of my initial painting progress, show where we are on the clock. I'm not going to do any trickery with the clock, which I'll explain the clock rules in a second, and see where I'm at. And then kind of explain my journey, my story of how I got into the tabletop part of the army, or then to the hobby, why Dark Angels was my first army. And I gotta say, like, just painting up the green wing side these past few days has been much more nostalgic and hitting me in the feels than I thought it would. Like, I was kind of like, I've had so many different armies and things that I've had over time. There's definitely like other chapters that I've kind of like their background and whatever lore a little bit more or less. I guess maybe not more, just kind of like same, or I don't know, whatever. But the Dark Angels always, like I said, will hold a special place in my heart because they were my first. I came in the tail end of 5th edition. I finally went and bought some models, but was still too intimidated to play. And it was about a year after 6th edition came out. I finally let's break through the comfort zone. Let's go out there. Let's try this out. And then I was hooked. I loved it and continued. And then, like I said, then of course the pile of shames have grown and swayed and grown and swayed, all over the place. So yeah, so I wanted to give this a shot and see what I can do. Now, like I said, I'm not going to rush anything because I want it to look good. My main focus, I think, how I'm going to try to tackle this, I'm going to probably start with the Land Raider and move my way down. So I think I'm going to go Land Raider, then the Dreadnoughts, and then go into the Terminators, saving Belial and the Ancient for last because they are kind of centerpiece character models that I definitely want to take my time on, and I don't want to feel rushed or do anything. So if I don't quite fully get to them, that's cool. I'm not like any of it, I'm not really overly stressed. But I think that's how I want to work. I want to do the vehicles, the dreadnoughts, and then get into the rest of the Terminator infantry. Just because I know the Deathwing Knights are probably going to take a lot of extra time. And then the characters will be the last ones there. So, all right, talking into some of the rules here on what is kind of the rules behind the clock and how the clock's going to work. So 24 hours, I'm going to have it going, but I am going to allow myself, bathroom breaks. If I need to go get food and stuff like that, I will pause the clock and not count that against me. Haven't decided yet how long I'm going to go on a stint. I was thinking I was going to try to do 24 hours straight, but that's kind of hard to do when you have a family and everything else, to where me being dead the whole next day or two is not going to be ideal. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and probably try to do 12 to 16 hours or so, and then pick it back up, which 12 hours depending upon what time you start. I have to kind of do it at night because during the day is too hard to do. So starting at night, going into the morning, and then maybe breaking it up and doing some, I don't know how I'll do the other hours the next few days, but sorry. So case in point, right? I have family knocking and banging it right now, and haven't even started. So at the very least, like, we're gonna be starting tonight, probably. I was thinking about 6 p.m. my time. I might have to push it to 7, depending, and then try to go for about 12 hours, but we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be very interesting because I can sometimes get really stuck in the details. Just painting the interceptors, I timed that out, and it was about 5 hours to get 3 done, which is not super efficient. Currently with that amount, like I said, I'd have to do the math, but 24 hours, 35 models, that's less than an hour per model, which is way fast. So I don't really think I will get them all completely painted. Ideally, if I could get like the 3-color rule, right, so they're technically tabletop ready, maybe that. But like I said, I don't know. It will be interesting to see how far I can get on all this. So again, this is very flexible, but I also am kind of curious on how this is going to go. So if you hold out, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Definitely drop some comments or questions down on the bottom. Like, subscribe, share, check out the Facebook, Instagram, all that. And yeah, let's I guess start diving into this. Okay, well, welcome to my first ever video. Trying to do a paint challenge here. So like I said earlier, I'm going to start off with the Land Raider, and we're gonna give it a go. Before I get things kicked off, before I start the clock, a few things. When I first primed these, it was outside, hot, windy day, and like when I say hot, it was like 95 plus. The temperature said that it was like feeling like it was like 115 out. It was a horribly hot, humid, and windy day all in one. So it was like a wet blow dryer. So unfortunately, a lot of the priming didn't go quite as great as I wanted it to. Some of it went on too thick or dried too thick. Other places I got like this really dustiness on it. But I've done my best. It's kind of, some of it you can kind of get off with your finger. But overall, like, I want more of a grim dark, dirtied up look anyway. So hopefully this will work out. But we'll see. So kind of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to be trying a lot of new techniques. Like, I'm definitely no expert in a lot of things when it comes to painting, but I'm going to be trying out a lot of new things here, kind of getting out of my comfort zone and see, you know, what can I add in my wheelhouse of tools, techniques, that kind of stuff. So I see a few little hairs and stuff I want to try to get out of here. Yeah, so the first thing I'm gonna try to do is I'm gonna try to do like kind of a, oh, I don't know, sort of a pre-shade that you see people do. So taking the airbrush and kind of trying to get in these cracks here. And then after that, I'm gonna do like another kind of gradient shade kind of coming up. And then I'm gonna try this paper technique where you kind of put it here and use it to kind of block off some of your shading a little bit so it doesn't get on the bottom here. Now, something I don't really understand with vehicles, but it always looks so cool when I see other people do it, is when they do this shading, they'll do like what you would think a natural shade on the side is, right? Like, okay, your shadows are down here and then it gets lighter up here. But then it's like when they transition over to these panels, you would think that maybe you want this to all be bright and then the shade is over here, but they usually do it like the opposite, like the shade is on, like meets the side that's not, and it creates a very interesting look. I don't know what it's gonna look like when I attempt to do it, if I'm gonna be able to pull it off, but yeah, we'll see that, and more so when it comes to doing the dreadnoughts. But you can already see I kind of did a little bit of a pre-transitional shade. I used Xandri dust, which actually is funny because it is more of like a dust because of the conditions that it were outside. And I didn't really bother like doing anything on the bottom here as far as like more than the Xandri dust. And then I did another rattle can of a lighter shade to do kind of almost like a zenithal, but kind of closer to a color that I want to get to. There's actually a Rust-Oleum satin almond, which honestly I just happened to have in the garage at the time, and I had ran out of Xandri dust and I was kind of freaking out. I wanted to get these done in prime, so I just kind of grabbed it, went with it, and I think it works well. So we're gonna go with that, and then the next thing I need to figure out then is what is gonna be the highlight khaki bone kind of color for this, because I'm going to add some battle damage and other things as well. But I suppose before I do the battle damage, there's a few other things I'm going to do to try and I don't know, just make it look cool. I like to look up different reference pieces online and see if I can find some different schemes I like, and there is one I like that kind of like ties it in with the army. So I'm gonna go for that. It's kind of like you have a green kind of stripe diagonal coming across here, and then this is green and stuff, but I'll still have some of the weapon parts be red because that's Dark Angels, right? They have the red weapon casings. Yeah, so I guess we will go from there and see what we can accomplish. All right, so first thing first here, I'm going to try to do the shading. Yeah, we'll see how much control I can get of this, but here we go. I already see this is very watery, so it's kind of running all over the place. So I got to be maybe a little more lighter on the trigger, if you will. And maybe be a little bit quicker with my application. Just do multiple layers of it to build it up. Trying to go anywhere I feel like there's kind of a recess where two panel areas kind of gain some elevation. I think that is a good starting point. I should mention. So I'm using the Seraphim Sepia shade through the airbrush right now. Now, the airbrush I'm using, it is Iwata. It's been a workhorse of mine. It works fairly well. I know there's higher end, better airbrushes out there for sure. I'm not as comfortable with the airbrush yet to kind of invest in that. And then I find like over time, like trying to like airbrush maintenance and cleaning and stuff probably isn't the best. So I do find over time I do have to kind of up the airbrush a little bit more than I want to, because I'm not getting enough of the paint out, so it's kind of somewhat clogged at times. Which can have all kinds of problems on the road, because there are times where I get a little bit of splattering effect because it's trying to force too much out, or like some will start to accumulate in the end of the airbrush. Yeah, this is so watery. I don't know. And a lot of it too is like I feel like my air pressure is too high. I'm also trying to just get this done without it not going out, but here we go. You know, in the end, I don't know how much this is all going to end up staying and be readable. How much of it I end up just undoing with other stuff I'm going to do to it later. Yeah. So let's do that here. All right, well, I'm going to continue this and then we'll be back. All right, I came back for a quick second because I'm going to try this paper shade technique thing. Yeah, I don't know if this is going to work, so I'll get it at least on film of me failing at it potentially here. Oops. Yeah, there's a little too much there. All right. I don't know. Sure. I really don't know. It looks okay. Like I said, this is interesting for sure. All right. Well, there we have that. We're gonna go kind of down the front here a little bit. Try to do the same over here. Oops. Well, definitely screw that up a little bit. Maybe I can make some battle damage there. Yeah. All right. Finish this up a little bit in front. The other challenge I'm going to have is I have my basing on this purple planet kind of thing. Something I've started doing across my armies with like Tau and, well, I guess mostly Tau. And so I like the idea of kind of like bringing in a cohesive, like maybe these different factions are fighting on the same planet and stuff like that. So with that, I want to put some like dirt and grime in these treads, but to make it like convincing purple dirt, yeah. All right, well. There we go. I guess we're going to need to call that good for a little bit of appreciating. Actually, I'm going to go around in here real quick. That's not loud at all. All right. So another, I guess, kind of reason why it's kind of nice coming back to this and trying new techniques and things I've never done is it really is a true homage to my Dark Angels army, right? Being my first army, I really had to get out of my comfort zone and try something new, something I didn't think I could do and something I was intimidated by. When I went to my first hobby shop a few years prior and had seen everybody else's work, I was like kind of blown away, and I was like, there's no way, absolutely no way. And then fast forward a few years after that, I decided, you know what, let's go for it. So all right, let's see what we're gonna go to next. So for sake of speed, I'm trying to do as much of this as I can with an airbrush. So I don't know. It's another thing, I don't usually typically do a majority paintbrush or airbrush. I usually just kind of prime and maybe a little bit of effects, but other than that, I usually stick to just the brush, which seems to be part of my problem, maybe, of pushing some of my paintings and certain effects and blends that I would love to do. Right now I'm trying to prime black most anything I'm going to do in a like gunmetal kind of color later. Trying to be a little bit careful with overspray, but I'm not overly concerned. Yeah. As I get further into this painting, I'll continue to kind of share my initial journey here with Warhammer. Especially when we get to the Terminator, it'll definitely go more into the story. Yeah, this airbrush needs clean. It's starting to stick open sometimes, which is not good. I guess I don't know why I'm spending too much time on that. This probably won't be seen because it'll be under there most of the time. All right. But yeah, I'll definitely talk more into like kind of my whole Warhammer journey, if you will, and then how and why I landed on Dark Angels as my first army. And honestly, as I've been painting it, kind of going back to, you know, sticking to the Angels again for a while. All right, so I had to take a bit of time and clean this up again real quick because it was getting kind of sticky and clogged. I think we're good now. Next thing is going to be kind of hard because I thought I had some painter's tape and I in fact do not have any. So that is going to make my job a little bit harder for this next part. But I don't really have time. Looking at the clock right now, about 40-ish minutes has already elapsed. So I'm already kind of run out of my time, especially this being a vehicle. But the having about an hour per miniature is kind of coming to an end pretty quickly. Now, I normally didn't want to, but it is getting a little bit annoying with this door constantly popping open. I did put a little bit of glue on the top there. I'm trying to put a little bit in here too. Now, I didn't want to like glue it, but kind of maybe thicken up the joints a little bit so it sticks a little bit better. But if it ends up gluing shut, well, that's just what it is. Okay, so the next part I wanted to do was I want to add some stripes. So that's why I was looking for the painter's tape so I could mask it off. Unfortunately, I don't have any. So I'm kind of debating, but I think I'm going to try this paper technique as well again to make these stripes. Now it's going to be super simple. Just I want a diagonal stripe here on the front. Basically straight from here down and here down about the same width. Yeah, basically matching this width right here on both sides, and that's it. Should be pretty simple, fairly easy, but without the masking tape it is going to be a little bit harder. So yeah, let's try to use that to help stabilize the side of it maybe a little bit. And then I'm gonna try and get, so I don't want to use just Dark Angels green as it is very dark. I'm gonna mix it with Warpstone Lightning. I'm actually gonna probably use this first in the airbrush, followed by darkening it with Dark Angels green. Actually, gonna open a fresh pot of the Warpstone. All right, first though, I'm gonna put, we got a little bit Vallejo's Flow Improver. Put a few drops of that in there. I don't really ever know how much to put. I just kind of go with it. So I know I don't want to do too much, make it too runny, which seems to always be kind of an issue. I know when these contrast paints first came out and people were testing them out in airbrushes, they were still a little bit too thick, because they are not airbrush paints technically. All right, now we're gonna add, so I kind of, the bad thing about this is kind of just feeling for it. I don't really know if my ratio here is gonna be good or not. Just kind of winging it. I do plan on like trying to go through and highlight it a little bit later. Yeah, that's not too bad. Actually, might add a little bit of Green Stuff World's Nuclear White to kind of brighten it back up. Maybe 1 to 2 drops here. Okay, I went with 2. Hopefully that's not too much. Oh, maybe I should have done white dust. Well, anyway. All right. Mix it, mix. All right, we'll go with that. Hopefully I got enough in here to be able to do both sides and not have to remix. All right, well, here we go. Wish me luck. All right, so I'm trying to basically mask off all of that. Looks pretty good. All right. Okay. And then see here, trying to do kind of the same thing. Boom. And just like that, I think that's actually pretty good. That looks nice. That worked out. All right, cool. Now, let it dry a little bit. You can see the darker area there where it's still wet. Wow, that I do really like how that turned out. While that's drying though, I'll use a little bit of this on the brush and kind of just go over this part. Okie doke. That should be good there. Check it, make sure it's dried. Man, I don't know why I am like really loving how that turned out. I guess the reason why I love it so much is because I just kind of winged it with this piece of paper here. All right, so the second winging of it. The trick is I want to get a similar angle here, and it went. So I don't have this same step over here. It's on the back one. So it goes down and goes in between. So I want it to kind of go middle of there. All right, so you know what? All right. That'll make it a little bit easier. Yep. Okay. Actually, you know what? I think holding it like that might be the next ticket. Now I want to go straight down as much as possible. Okay. And then here, where did I go? Down here on. Okay, just past that rivet. That looks pretty close on both sides, I think. I think we're good. Nice. All right, well, I'll hold off on that real quick. I'm gonna do this. There's a little thin spot right there. Okay, and then we're gonna go here again, and just nice. All right, and then we're gonna do this. So. All right. All right, well, I gotta say, I'm very pleasantly pleased with how kind of quickly this is going. I'm definitely not gonna make it under an hour, but for the results I'm getting so far, I'm pretty pleased. So next, I think I'm going to, I don't know, probably do the gunmetal, yeah. And as we get into this, I'm at about an hour now into it, and I'm gonna start cracking this open. This is my first energy drink, not sponsored by anyone ever, because I'm not big enough. But yeah, Bulkhead energy drinks. I don't know. This is kind of my new favorite. I'm trying to get away from energy drinks in general. They're not the best for you, but I do like this one. Just because of the things it says on the side. Maybe it's true. I always hope it is. But it just says that it is veteran owned and operated, crafted for those who mission requires unbeatable best. I could have swore somewhere that it said like a portion of proceeds go toward, oh, right down here. A portion of the profits go to charities supporting our nation's heroes. So I don't know if you're in the United States. I don't know where all these are available at. But yeah, I like the Sierra Lima. They all have names too. They're military kind of related, which is kind of neat. So you got the Sierra Lima, which is a strawberry lemonade. They have Outer Regs, I think it is, which is like pineapple and orange. It almost tastes like a mimosa. And then they have another one that's like a fruit punch flavor they call Shellback, which, if anyone's familiar with maritime stuff going across the equator, you have your Shellback ceremony. But anyway, yeah. So anyway, they're fun. They're cool. And going to crack it open. Hopefully I only need 1, 2 at the most. I really don't want to have to drink 2. But we'll see how I'm doing. All right, so yeah, I think I'm going to go into the gunmetal parts, maybe do the weapons casings, and then start working on a few of the bits and bobs here and there. And then I'm going to do a gloss over it, and then I'm going to, I don't know if I want to necessarily, if I need to, but I'm going to do some streaking grime over it, I think. So, all right. So
quick update on where I'm at, and I think it looks great. I'm about to get ready to put some decals on. I did a lot of weathering and stuff like that, but the amount of time it is taking is I'm probably not gonna make the challenge by a long shot. This is 4 hours in right now. I could have gotten this quicker to a spot that I guess would have been maybe good. But like I said, I don't want to sacrifice the quality of what I'm doing just to meet the challenge. So I'm gonna keep pushing ahead and try to get as much as I can. But at this rate, it's looking like I'm probably gonna get this done, and maybe the dreadnoughts. And then I don't even know how many Terminators. So now I'm almost rethinking maybe I'll do this, the dreadnoughts, and then the 2 characters, and then try to figure out a way to assembly align the rest of the Terminators and stuff. I'm not too sure, but anyway, yeah, this is taking quite a bit more. All right, I'm getting ready to put on the decals or decals, however you say it. And this is where I keep them all. I still think this is arguably probably the best kill team release ever, but now I use it to keep all of my many decals and things. So grab out some decals for this, and yeah. Okay. I don't know why it's not cutting on this side. I need to get a new blade. Alright. And I'm gonna go. Oh, shoot. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. these in. Okay. Usually it picks up when I do that, but good amount on here. Right there, yeah. Okay. All right, those are there. Now I use the other one to kind of help set it in. It's kind of more or less, the first one kind of makes it loose and maneuverable. This one in here kind of melts it down, so it gives it more of that painted on effect. For this, I like to kind of liberally put it on. Don't move it around too much because it's still not set, so it can potentially shift the decal around if you do too much, so I just kind of dab it on and let it kind of sit. Now when you do this, it can start to look kind of wrinkly, which is pretty normal. But again, just kind of let it sit for a little bit there. And while that's doing that, I do have one more I want to put on the side here. I like to use a knife to kind of help position it, get a little bit more precision. You gotta be careful though, because you can tear it. This one is starting to kind of want to do. Sometimes adding a little bit more of this kind of helps too. There we go. All right, I think it's a good position there. I'm gonna soak some of the excess off real quick. So as this kind of dries, I do like to kind of help press it down, try to get some of the wrinkles out if I can. All right, so I'm gonna let these kind of dry a little bit, do the other side, and then come back over with probably some sepia shade to kind of just blend them down a little bit, so they're not just kind of like, right now they pop a little bit too much. All right, well, done with the Land Raider for the most part. I just got to finish up waiting for this to dry so I can kind of make the purple earth dirt on the treads. I didn't put any on the bottom because one, it's gonna sit on the table, and I didn't want to waste, you know, my texture or whatever paint. So didn't put any on the bottom. Put some kind of on the sides and in between the treads in here, but nothing on the bottom to just save space. And like, there's not really any need. It's just gonna be sitting on the tabletop like this. But while that's kind of drying, and before I finish that, I'm going to move on because I'm definitely not going to make this challenge as far as getting all those Terminators done. But next up, I'm going to try to work on these in tandem. I'm not too sure how that's going to go, but I'm going to try and figure out ways I can kind of do both of these. So, yeah, something that would help for sure if I do sub-assemblies. I don't know if I glued these. Oh, sweet. All right, so looks like I can take these arms off. I built these so long ago. This Brutalis I built a really long time ago. Sweet. All right. Well, that helps some. Yeah, ideally maybe if I can get the, I don't know, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. Like if I can get the airbrush and get like all this metal done, but it's probably not gonna happen. It might just be quicker to try to brush it on, and then from there do the rest. Not sure. All right, let me go get my airbrush and figure this out. What am I gonna do? Because this really, the only thing really in here is kind of that. The rest is kind of the same. All right, so here I am. I've got these shaded, I guess. I try to do that panel shading. I'm not too sure I like this as much. There's too many kind of linear, horizontal, parallel shading. I don't know. I guess it looks okay. I do like the way this one turned out though, I think, for some kind of panel pre-shading stuff. But yeah, this is where I kind of like, this went fairly quickly, and so I'm kind of getting that false sense of like, okay, maybe I can catch up again, but yeah, there's no way. Like I said, I'm gonna still plug away at these. Hopefully I can get these done fairly quickly, but again, like I said, I'm not gonna sacrifice my quality just to get these done. Now granted, like there's no, like these aren't gonna be, these aren't competition pieces. I'm not entering them in a painting contest, but I do just want to have an overall like really good looking army. Like yeah, so I essentially I'm trying to make like the best painted army I have ever had for myself personally, taking extra time and extra detail. Almost dry with the dread, or the Land Raider, and so gonna finish that up. And then that right there is kind of proof of the lengths I'm going with all these. So hopefully these will go a little bit quicker because it's not as big as a Land Raider. So as far as like the kind of battle damage wear that I'm going to be doing on these won't take as long. The thing that's going to take the longest, honestly, is probably the getting in here with a brush and doing the like gunmetal parts. I'm trying to debate, is there a shortcut kind of a thing? Like maybe I don't do the main body and I just kind of do like these connection points and stuff, and leave the rest, and maybe like this main body piece under here is also kind of the same bone color. Same thing with like this part here, and only like do the hip joints and then like these parts here. So I don't know, I think that's probably the best way, because then it's just quicker. I don't have to try to get the brush like all in there and hit some of these panel lines potentially on accident. And then once I do some additional shading and stuff, it should hopefully kind of not even be as noticeable. I'm thinking about maybe going in this part though with streaking grime at the end, not the whole model, but just like inside here to get the shading and everything, because it just kind of adds a little bit more of the grittiness and like an oil grease kind of thing for at least the inside portion. I think that's probably what I'm going to do. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. Yeah, so I'm going to push forward on this here. I guess I can do a clock update. I haven't really shown it since I started, but just to show it is ticking away. 18 hours left. And really only have kind of a Land Raider finish, so I am well far behind in this competition or challenge or whatever you want to call it for myself. But again, it was just kind of, I wanted to see where I'm at, if I could get like in a 24-hour period what I could do, and it's interesting. But again, if I was just trying to do tabletop ready, I could definitely probably slap these together pretty quickly. But because I'm trying to do not just tabletop ready, but I don't even know what you would call it, just like personal high quality level, So yeah, so let's continue. All right, and we're back. You may have not seen, but actually had to get to bed, get a little bit of rest, come back today. So on the clock right now, I got 15 hours, 44 minutes, 35 seconds, and we're gonna get back into it and get these dreadnoughts going. Because I was making some good headway with those. I'm trying to fix something on this Land Raider that broke while I was painting it. Yeah, I made some really good. There we go. Headway. Ah, dang it. Maybe not. There we go. On these dreadnoughts last night, I really do think the way forward was to just focus on not worrying about the main body there, all metal and silver, just doing these parts in between. I definitely think that saved some time, and it still looks fine. They're looking really good. Just got to finish up a few kind of details on them, and then I'm going to start kind of figuring out the shading and a few highlighting and decals and all that. Yeah, and then real quick, so I just had to glue this little part on the back again. Land Raider done. I think it turned out great. My only kind of sort of issue is the tracks. I tried to put some texture paint and then put some purple in there because the planet that I'm basing a lot of this on has got like a purple alien planet thing. So the idea was this has been driving through that planet. I don't know if it really comes across that way or if it just comes across as some like weird purple sludge stuff. I don't know. Hopefully it does. But the rest of it turned out amazing. Great. Very, very happy overall, though. So, anyway, let's jump back into these dreadnoughts and get these guys knocked out. So, with that, I'm going to get my timer again here. So, like I said, here we are right now. And I'm going to go ahead and try to start it again. Uh-oh. There we go. All right. And we're going. So, one thing with this is trying to plan ahead as much as possible when you have a deadline of any kind. Having a good game plan ahead is always key. For the most part, I gotta have a game plan, but I'm also kind of sort of figuring this out as I go. So we'll kind of continue to figure it out. All right, that being said, I'm not sure how I want to paint the wires and stuff on the inside. I don't know. There's a few ways I could do this. I'll probably just do, honestly, looking at it right now in the bundles, I'll probably just do black, red, and some lead belcher in there, and then it'll all get shaded up. It's probably the easier route there. And then I got some purity seals here I'm going to do up. And yeah, let's do it. Probably just going to do this like scroll work here. I usually just kind of do in a metal because I don't know, some of my thought process is that if they're doing these scrolls on here, they're probably not actual scrolls. They're probably some sort of decorative metal work of some kind. So, just got some fresh paint water, and let's go with that. I'll have to empty this out and show my little, I don't know, Games Workshop paint pot thing, and I like throw stickers and stuff on there, and yeah, I like it as well just because it doesn't look like a regular mug. Oh, took a drink and almost choked. Anyway, it doesn't look like a regular mug, so less chance of accidentally ingesting your paint water. Another thing, I can't remember, I got this as a freebie, I think, when I went to Nova one year. And it's a lifesaver. It's this little paint pot holder, so when you open your pots, they don't fall over. So one of the things I've tried and I just cannot figure out for the life of me is wet pallets. I cannot get that, I don't know, wet water to whatever ratio figured out. So I'm a pot dipper, if you will. Yeah, I cannot quite figure that out yet. Definitely should try and find a class maybe at Nova or someplace that like goes over wet pallets, how to set them up. Probably. I mean, I've watched the YouTube, but it's just sometimes you just gotta be in person to really figure out the concept, because for whatever reason it is just not clicking with me on how to set that thing up, and so I don't know. I need more adult supervision, I guess, on that one. All right, so I'm gonna pick out a few here. So I'm just gonna go with the, I don't know, what do you call them? The ridged cables in here are gonna be this color. And then this one here is the, I don't know what you call it, kind of monopose push fit version that came in, what was that? It was like a Vanguard Strike Force box when the Ballistis Dreadnought first came out. So anything else I need to touch up real quick with the lead belcher here? It doesn't really look like it. I'm pretty sure that was the one that came with. I can't remember now, because I feel like this one also came with a different box set thing. I think it was, I can't remember which came with which. I definitely got them both in various whatever box set things. This one though, I don't think they ever did a monopose version of the Brutalis, but maybe they did. But yeah. All right, I think that's just gonna be that. All right, trying to keep it simple, get this done kind of quickly. But yeah, so it makes it a little bit hard to get down in this one, but I'm not overly worried on that, just because, you know, it is what it is. All right, let's do a little bit of red. I do like using contrast paints at times, not so much because they do the auto highlight, because I usually go through anyway and do continual highlights, but I like that sometimes you can just get in there and just kind of touch an area, and then with like a drop and kind of just push the paint around, and then it can usually like settle down into areas that might be hard to get to with your brush, and you'll still get coverage enough that matters, at least, especially when you're not going to be like really looking down that deep. And again, since this isn't like any kind of a contest like piece or whatever that's really going to be scrutinized up close by some judges, I'm not like overly concerned again with some of that, I don't know, you want to call it cheats or hacks or shortcuts, whatever works. I think most of the goal, at least for me, is I'm not the best player when it comes to the tabletop, so I try to shock and awe my opponent somewhat with my painting. Again, I'm not the best painter out there either, but I definitely try and go above just the standard tabletop quality, or above average, I would say. I think I'm okay saying I'm above average painter. Not great, not horrible, not average either, but a little bit above. And really, it just takes time, right? Like time, practice, all that. To go into my story a little bit more, when I first got into Warhammer, like, it was very intimidating seeing the paint jobs. then when I finally picked up some models and did it, I was actually pretty pleased with myself. My first one I did. Um, not to sound super old, which I don't think I am, but to different generations, I'm sure. But anyway, like YouTube, and I don't even think Reddit was really a thing when I first got into it. I don't know. I still don't really use Reddit and all that, but um, anyway, like Facebook was a thing, but they didn't really have the Facebook groups that we have now. Um, and like I said, YouTube was definitely a thing, but it was uh, not what it is today, right? And the content out there, there was some, and then what was it? The DACA boards, I think, is actually where I got kind of my first painting tips, like what paints to get. Like they didn't really have. I don't think again like I was first getting into it. I was kind of stuck with just the Citadel paint range because that's what I saw in front of me by the models. um, so I don't know if I'm sure they did. I'm sure Army Painter was probably a thing. But like washes, like that thing, like those were kind of a game changer for me. Uh, and when I first got into it, it was you made your own washes. Basically, you just took whatever color wash you're trying to do and mixed it with water. That was kind of it. That was all I really did. So I still have my first miniature. I'd have to actually go get it out of the. It's in a case. I've since sold off my first Dark Angels army a while back. There's always pros and cons to selling your armies. I've sold a few over the years, and they're definitely it's hard to do because you get an attachment for sure. The time, money, effort, all that that you put into it. So it's kind of weird giving that up at times, but sometimes whatever life calls for it, unfortunately, at times. But yeah, so I did keep my very first model though I ever built and painted, and it's good, but even in the assembly, like the assembly wasn't horrible, but I just picked bits and pieces I thought were cool, and I tried to make like a normal kind of. It's just got a bolt gun, but things I didn't really understand, like my first kit was the Dark Angels Veterans, and I didn't really like understand the different pieces and parts. So when I got it, I threw whatever together, and one of the shoulder pads, the left shoulder pad, is actually a Terminator one and not for a regular Marine, because it came with like a Dark Angels kind of upgrade sprue thing in it. And I did not know that it was Terminator, so it was like a little bit bigger, and it didn't like fit properly, and I was just kind of like, okay, I don't really know why, but sure. So I slapped that on, and it was a Raven Guard too, so like not Raven Guard, sorry, Raven Wing, and so I was kind of like just all over the place with it. So I don't know, but I did a few years back. I want to say it was 2020 or 21. I actually recreated as best I could my first Marine as a Primaris and repainted and kind of did a comparison. Definitely on my Facebook. I don't know if I have it on Instagram. And it's under, I believe I made like a whole separate album for it, just called like my first 40K revisited or something to that effect. But anyway, that was a fun little project to kind of like see my journey at that time for how I was painting. So, but yeah, to go back into I guess the whole overall genesis of my story, started out my first kind of introduction to 40K was Dawn of War, the video game, computer game series. Played it, liked it, had like no clue what was going on though. Like, yes, it kind of introduces you to Space Marines, but I still had no clue. And I don't remember when it finally connected with me. I have an idea, but honestly, I don't really remember exactly when it connected that this is like a tabletop and there's more to this than um, yeah, just what I'm doing on the computer. Uh, so I'm trying to remember when it was Dawn of War 2 was coming out, and my roommate at the time, I was playing it, loving the game, and he said, "Hey, man, because I'm fairly like creative, artistic, and had done some other projects and things before that he was aware of, and he was like, "Hey, man, you would probably like the tabletop of that game." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, this Dawn of War is not like Dawn of War; it's Warhammer. It's based on a tabletop game." I was like, "What in the world does that even mean?" I'm thinking like Dungeons and Dragons or something like that, and um, I'm not anything on Dungeons and Dragons. I've never actually played. I've actually recently tried, barely, um, which that's another story. Actually, and before I tried this more recent time, I had actually got invited and tried to do. There's like a Space Marine like RPG thing that came out that I had tried in the past, and I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm too stiff to play those kind of games. I'm trying to get better, I guess. um, I actually have the Dungeons and Dragons Lego set they made. I haven't assembled it yet. Unfortunately, had it for a while now, and I still haven't built it. But I plan on. My hope was to build it along with and adding it because I have a kind of another hobby, right? An unfortunate, expensive plastic hobby, Legos, which that's a whole nother rant on how kind of like Pokemon and other things, like unfortunately, like adults have kind of ruined these things because those companies are now more or less catering to the adults, and the sets and things coming out are not really like sets like when we were kids. They're all like statues and display pieces and not really play sets, which is kind of unfortunate. Um, and I say kind of like because I would like my kids to be able to have that same experience I had with Lego. I love Lego growing up, but it is what it is. There's still some good sets coming out for kids, but not nearly as good. They do these 4+ sets, which the instructions are amazing. Where my 4-year-old at the time could actually follow along because it has like a picture of a hand and put this piece in your hand. But the 4+ sets were like way overpriced for what they are. I don't know. I'm getting on a tangent on Lego. But anyway, the whole thought was create that, build that set because it does come with a Dungeons and Dragons campaign that you can download and kind of go through it. And I was like, well, this might be a cool, fun thing to try to figure out. Maybe even try to play with the kids. And I have other castle sets with my old ones and newer ones, and try to basically build a whole adventure on it. Like you have the base set of Dungeons and Dragons that comes with a lot of, well, not a lot of, but like comes with the rules and the a castle dungeon set itself, but then adding it into kind of a larger kind of Lego castle Dungeons and Dragon world, and basically build it off of there. So I don't know. We'll figure that out. Still trying to figure that out. I really would ideally would like to get somebody that can dungeon master for it, so we can kind of like build it. And the cool thing about doing it with Legos, I think, is that you can actually build your minifigure character to match what it is, and you can upgrade it with all the different equipment and pieces that we have as you find things and buy things or whatever. So I think that aspect of it is pretty cool. Um, you know, anyway, so where was I? So yeah, he suggested like, hey man, you should go check out this thing. So uh, finally one day I was living in North Carolina at the time, Jacksonville, North Carolina to be exact, and we run into the hobby store there. Uh, Still there, Hobby Chest, under new management, Mr. Dan. Shout out to old Mr. Dan, really nice guy. Uh, Pretty sure he sold it. I'm pretty positive it's under new management. It's been a while since I've lived there, so. But my last understanding was that he did retire, sold it. It's under new management, but it's still there, which is great. And walking through there was so intimidating. There was a few people playing, but we just kind of went over. They had some display cabinets where they had a bunch of different armies and stuff, like painted stuff on display. And I pretty vividly remember the thing that stuck with me was a Valkyrie that was painted amazing, but more so than that, like it was open, like the top was off, so you could see inside. And I don't think, well, no, they don't, but like Forge World used to sell a bunch of different stuff, and of course, at the time I had no idea what anything was, but I do know Forge World at one time did sell like an interior insert thing that you could put inside the Valkyrie, so you could have like troops like in there and stuff. And so this had that, and so it was like a fully painted, done interior. Gunners on the doors and the tail door or tail ramp, whatever. And it was just amazing. I was like, I was like, yeah, man. I was like, yeah, I'm creative and artistic or whatever you want to say, but like this is another level. Like I can't even, like, I don't have the time, patience, whatever. So I kind of like, all right, I'm just, yeah, it's cool. I would love to. That seems awesome. And I was just like, but I don't know. And this was probably 2009, I want to say, because I think that I know it was either 2008 or 2009. It was whenever Dawn of War 2 came out, which I think it came out in 2009. I don't think it was 2008. So yeah, so 2009. So I've been playing Dawn of War since the first one, which I think was 2004. Then first time I ever got to introduce to the tabletop was about 5 years or so later, and was just like, no way, this is too much. Anyway, so then we'll kind of fast forward. I've moved. Living in Virginia, where I currently am now. And I'm living alone in an apartment. I have across the street a GameStop, and would frequently, visit, pre-order stuff. Was still am fairly a gamer, although I don't like the trajectory a lot of the gaming industry has gone with no physical content anymore. And even the physical content you get is not really physical content, but just a glorified access code or something on a disc. But anyway, I went over because a new game was coming out, Paintmarine, for the Xbox 360. So I had to go pre-order that, and then when that came out, and I was playing that, and I was loving it, and I was also, I guess, I don't know, you call it depressed, maybe, sort of. I kind of feel like I've probably been kind of down and depressed at times, but I never know that that's what's going on. I'm not. I would say I'm not emotionally intelligent enough of myself to be able to recognize when stuff like that's going on. Never been a good read on my own stuff, I guess, which I think I don't know what you call that, denial or whatever else, but I was definitely kind of feeling some kind of way, and I thought, you know what, let me find a hobby store. Oh shoot, I was gonna do that real quick. Let me find a hobby store and let me dive into this, because this game is fun. I'm loving Paintmarine, like Dawn of War, amazing, loved it. And then Paintmarine was just kind of like I finally got to like play as a Marine, and it was amazing. And I was like, you know what, I want to I actually want to do this. So I go find a hobby store, and it's funny, as the other day when I was starting to repaint these, I was kind of reminiscing. And so the hobby store I went to at the time, this is now fast forward to 2000, I want to say 2011. Um, it is still around, although it has since moved from its location, and the location where it was at is now a Harris Teeter. They kind of demolished those buildings and built a new thing, and yeah. Anyway, not to get ahead of myself here because I don't want to give too much away, but anyway, found a store, went there, and started looking around. So, kind of did like the first thing, and I didn't really like have any hints or tips or anything of what people said. I had no idea that there was like so many different Space Marines and all kinds of stuff like that. So I kind of just went in there blind. But first thing I did was just walk around the store, see what's going on, and there were a few people playing. Oh, I forgot the purity seal on the back with the red. There were a few people playing, so I watched them. And I want to say this. So this was 5th edition. Because I want to say it was June of 2012 when 6 came out. But anyway, this was right around 5th edition. Probably a year and a half left in 5th edition's life. I'm not really sure when exactly it came out, but I just remember going back there and again, a little bit intimidated, especially from the game side this time. So I go back there, and there's a few people playing. One guy's got the main rule book out, and there's this giant tome with this Warhammer on the front, and he's like flipping it open. It's just this giant book. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's a lot of rules. I don't even know where to begin to navigate something like that. So again, I'm kind of like a little bit intimidated once again on that. Dang it, I was gonna do. I got to touch this up anyway. I was gonna do this in brass and this here, and then white and white on the sword. But anyway, actually, I'm doing this quartz skin on the sword probably. Anyway, yeah. So again, a little bit intimidated, and then I saw this Tau player, and I don't know how new Tau was at the time. I think it was still. I think they came out in 2001, something like that. They came out in the 2000s, I'm fairly sure. It was a new army. And I guess there was a lot of shenanigans that you could do initially. This guy, and I had no idea what they were at the time, but he had, they're at least devilfish, if not, I don't remember what's the other one called, the long gun ones. I can't remember. Devilfish and... I don't know. I can't remember the long range ones. Anyway, he had those, and they were all painted white. But then he had like, just like the table was just filled with these little circle things on these like clear stands, and there were a bunch of shield drones or gun drones or something, like just a crazy amount. And I guess that was a thing that you could kind of abuse or something. Like you could. Early Tau could bring a ton of these drones and kind of flood the table, and it was kind of cheesy or whatever. But I may not be remember that exactly right, but to my knowledge, I'm pretty sure that was part of the cheese then. And again, I was just like, man, in the white, it was just like this pristine white. It wasn't probably the best. So long ago, I didn't really get up close and look too crazy, but like again, it was just kind of like, man, that's intimidating. So anyway, looked at that, and then I walked over and I saw the wall of Warhammer, and I was like, oh man, I knew I wanted Marines. And at the time, like basically the only way to know the difference between your army was how you painted them, how you painted your Marines. But again, not really knowing that, looking around, and I see these green robed Marines with this winged sword. So immediately drawn to them for a number of reasons. One of them being, I never understood the bright colors on Marines. It just seemed, from a tactical standpoint, it doesn't make any sense to have this bright armor that makes you stick out. You know, hindsight being like, obviously they're super soldiers, the armor's super strong, so they don't really care. They can tank a lot of the stuff in the lore anyway. So yeah, so at the time I was just kind of like, that just seemed kind of dumb. But green is my absolute favorite color, pretty much all shades of it. Um, but I tend more toward the darker greens and the olive drab greens and stuff. And seeing the Dark Angels in their dark green glory, I was like, oh wow, those are awesome. And specifically the Dark Angels veteran set. So you throw robes on them, and I'm just like, oh, those are super awesome. Power armor and robes and green. And then on top of it, like the cherry on top, if you will, was their symbol, the winged sword, because for those that are familiar with Halo, in Halo 2, when you could add album emblems, I can't remember Halo. I don't think you could at Halo 1, but I definitely know Halo 2 you could add emblems to your Spartan, and I'd always would make my Spartan like a darker green, and there's a Valkyrie symbol that was a winged sword that I would always slap on there and make it either like a off gray or white color. And I was like, this is it. This is my symbol and everything. So it's just so many things calling them to me. So I picked up the Dark Angels veterans box, and then looked at the back, saw it had some suggested paints on there, so I got a few of those colors. Then I found myself by codexes, and I don't remember at the time. I feel like the Dark Angels was one of the only. They're either the few or the only um, chapter that really had separate kits at the time. Like you didn't have all these different characters and upgrade sprues and things that you find now, that you do today. And again, I didn't even know. For all I knew, like the Dark Angels were just like I could add them into an Ultramarines or whatever army. I didn't know that it was like a whole separate army. I thought maybe that was just the name of this unit. No idea, right? So, um, get them, go get some paints, like a brush or two, uh, and then find myself by the codexes. So I actually picked up the Dark Angels Codex, having no idea what all the stats and everything inside meant. I was like, oh, just okay, whatever. But I mostly wanted it for lore and to look at the pictures, the paint schemes in there, um, and that kind of stuff. And then maybe eventually, play, because I didn't know what all I needed, but I was like, oh, I probably need this. And that's when I kind of like, oh, this is like a separate army. This isn't just a unit. This is like a different thing. Um, so yeah, so I got that. Um, I since with my army, I had sold off that codex, um, with it, and I've since repurchased it because I was like, you know what, I want this for the sentimental value of it. So I do have another 5th edition Dark Angels Codex back, because there is the on the back cover, and I have a metal version now, and I'm still very wary because I feel like I got taken a little bit. I bought kind of my, I don't know, at the time it's still Grail model for the Dark Angels, is in metal, and on the back it was like I think it only came in like an army box set of Dark Angels that they had back then, and it was a company master, and he's like hooded and has a big combi plasma thing, and he looks just so cool on the back and everything. I was like, oh, that's an awesome model I'd love to get and paint someday. So I did find one for a decent price on eBay, and it is a white metal model. However, I haven't fully assembled it. I've cleaned it, got it all kind of ready, and I want to take my time on it and just do it as best I can, right? Like make it my best paint job I've ever done. But I don't know, it seems a little off, and I can't quite put my finger on it, but it almost feels like a bootleg version, and it very well could be. I know that's a thing that happens, so I don't know. Not sure if it is or not, but anyway. All right, let's do this. Since I don't have, as you can see here, unfortunately, I do this a lot of times too. Not having I should get like a little paint palette thing, that you can get for cheap at a Hobby Lobby or wherever, but I don't. So this works for now. Just put a little bit on there and use it up. Um, but yeah, so anyway, that model is amazing. I have a version of it. Hopefully, it's a legit copy. I don't know how to really tell the authenticity of it or not, but anyway. So yeah, so I got him. I remember I can't. I mean, the guy was an older guy, probably the owner of the store at the time. Which again, like I'm pretty sure the store has since probably changed management. They actually have two locations now where I'm at, um, which is kind of cool. Again, like yeah, they're not the same location, but it's cool to see like both the two hobby stores um, that I initially had gone to are both still alive and thriving as far as I know. And like I said, the one has two locations now, so there must be doing pretty well. But yeah, so I remember he was older gentleman working the counter, and he was like, "Oh, what you working on? Some Dark Angels, nice." And that was pretty much the end of it. I didn't really say I was new to Warhammer. Oh, that I remember too. They had some Gray Knights in a display cabinet up by the checkout, and the Force weapons were painted so amazing. And again, the intimidation was setting in. I was like, "Oh man, there's no way." Like the lightning, like everything about them, there was just so cool. So there's kind of pros and cons, I guess, to stores putting models and stuff on display like that because on one hand it can give inspiration and be like, look at this, look how cool this is, and then yet can cause some intimidation. Be like, maybe I won't do this. But anyway, so I got them, took them home, and like I said, started building. It was kind of like I said, I think I was in kind of a funk, needed something to do. I was living, alone, empty apartment to come home to after work every day. I had some work colleagues, but other than that, like I didn't really. I've always been a little bit like I don't know. My interests haven't really aligned a lot of times with the people I work with. Um, which I mean, whatever. That's just what it is. But it does make it kind of harder to like. I would go hang out and do things with them, but it was usually it's just always more things that they like to do, and I would just kind of tag along because I wanted the interaction and friends essentially. But it wasn't really what I wanted. And then if you go into the hobby space, something I was interested in, like no, I don't know, I don't want to like offend our actual community, but I think we can all recognize that like it can be kind of weird at times. So, um, that was kind of another thing that kind of off put me of wanting to jump in the hobby, where just unfortunately some of the people like you see like that Tau player. I remember like he was probably the definition of what people call like a neck beard, right? Like the well, actually, this and that, and then but then when you question them on a rule or something like that, they suddenly like, oh, I misread my own rule that I've been getting wrong this whole game, or just trust me, bro, kind of rules and stuff like that. So, um, but yeah, so I took it home, built the first one, painted it, thought it looked great, went ahead and painted the rest, and then I was like, you know what? I don't remember how it wasn't like right away, but I was like, I want to get more. I want to continue. So I went back, and my next purchases were Space Marine Scouts because why not? And this again, I didn't even really understand unit composition and what you could field with what. So got a Space Marine Scouts and to include a Space Marine Commander and a drop pod were my next purchases. And then again, trying to like look up ways to paint. And that's when I found like, like they're saying like, oh, you need to prime your models and do all this. Cause that was the thing. The first model I painted, like, I don't know how I even primed it. Like, I think I just took, it wasn't Abandoned Black. I don't think it was called that then. It might have been. They definitely have changed the name since then. Like green was still snot green at the time, the warpstone color. Um, but yeah, so I don't even know if I primed my first one technically, but yeah. So got home, and then like I said, like realized I needed a prime, so I built the drop pod, and then went out and we got some black spray paint. Now I think it was just like a Rust-Oleum black spray paint. I don't even know if it was a primer or what exactly, but I sprayed that stuff on and it sort of kind of worked. It definitely worked. It was actually, I got kind of the effect I got with some of these models when I was trying to prime them outside. It was probably too far away. It was too weather conditions, too windy or whatever, and so I got like that weird dusting texture on a lot of the models, or not the models, on the drop pod, and so it's kind of odd and it was kind of weird, but made it work. Got it painted and got the rest of my models painted, and then that was pretty much it. That was kind of the end of the story. They sat on the shelf for a long time. Right, so this is 2011. They sat there until 2013. A lot of things happened in my life over that time. Tons of stuff. I am now married and have a child on the way. And I've moved to North Carolina again, to a different area. And now I'm, again, don't really have any friends or anything. I've got a few of these models, so I'm like, you know what, let me look further into this. And I can't remember when or how, but when looking into it, so I think I just looked up Warhammer stores or something, and that's when I found a Games Workshop, which I had never set foot in. Didn't even kind of realize that they had their own stores. So yeah, so went to the Games Workshop, and it was weird. It was a weird interaction. Most of the manager at the time, he was like an Army reservist or National Guard person, one of the two. So he was kind of like, I don't know, he wasn't like fully engaged in being the manager, I guess. And his store always had like weird hours because of it, and he never seemed to have like a backup person. And anyway, though, I went in, and this was, again, like about a year into 6, and they had the Dark Vengeance box set, which, guess what, comes with Dark Angels. I'm like, perfect. So I got those, and then I can't remember if I did the Chaos side. I somehow think I was able to go on like eBay or something and sold them off or something like that, because again, I didn't really have anyone to trade with or knew anybody like that. So yeah, went on, traded them out or sold them or whatever. And I do remember, I think I ended up buying found on eBay that you could just buy the whatever model. So I think I ended up buying a second set of just the Space Marine side. I'll try to do this with this. So yeah, so I started building them up and painting them, and then I was like, okay, well now I need to know how to play. And I don't really remember where I got my first game to learn at, but I remember this was back, Craigslist was a thing, because again, we didn't really have Facebook groups and stuff, and there was a posting, somebody was looking for setting up some games at their house with some other people. So you know, kind of crazy back then when I think about it. Like, man, like today I won't even meet people up for Facebook Marketplace because of all the horror stories and the things happening with people getting robbed or whatever else. So it's like kind of crazy to me that I'm like, oh, hey, told the wife, like, hey, I'm going to go to town over, meet this guy in his garage. Right? It sounds kind of crazy when you think about it now, but went there, and I guess there were a few other people that had answered the ad as well, and we just showed up and they kind of taught me and ran me through my first games, and then it became kind of a every few weeks thing. The group of us would show up at his house and play Warhammer, and we had like games of all different sizes. We do almost like a mini tournament kind of thing at times. He'd have a couple tables going. Like this guy had so much stuff. I don't even, to this day I don't even know what his job was. And unfortunately, what did I don't did I go too in depth? I want to say we had a falling out. We definitely didn't. I never whatever, but like my job, work, my availability kind of waned and was kind of all over the place. But um, you know, I had a kid on the way as well, and then a kid. So a lot of different things, but um, I don't know. I can't remember if I just stopped being able to go or just because I wasn't able to go as much. Like I stopped getting the invites as much or some combination thereof. But then I actually ran into a few of the people that used to go with when I went to Nova one year, and they were like, "Oh, hey, it was great seeing them, catching up a little bit." And then it sounded like kind of the same thing, but it also sounds like I don't know. He was big into buying everything that was coming out, and then but then like selling it. I don't know. I think he was getting some third party bootleg stuff too, but then like painting it and then selling it. I mean, he was a decent painter, but once you paint something, you can't really tell most of the time if it's counterfeit or not. So he was kind of doing that, like kind of flipping models that were counterfeit or forward or whatever. So anyway, I don't know, like that kind of just stopped, and like we were friends on Facebook, and then one day I was like gonna reach out, and then all of a sudden like, oh wait a minute, I'm not friends with him anymore. I can't message him. I wasn't blocked per se, at least I don't think so, because I could still see the profile, but it was weird, and it sounds like I wasn't the only one that kind of happened to. He kind of cut everybody from that group out, and then kind of it was almost like he kind of had used us up to what he could, and then was moving on to the next group because he had a different group that he was kind of doing. So I don't know, kind of a weird situation. There's I think a little bit more to it, but anyway, yeah. So from there, yeah, like I mean that's pretty much the start of it. Like that really got me going, and then getting more into the lore, and I was like, man, like I love the Dark Angels, but like I really like the salamanders and the dragon, the fire themes, and all that kind of stuff was cool. And then they're also green, just different kind of green, and also yes, a I don't know, brighter green. But yeah, so I was kind of like, all right, well, let me look into them. So then I had a pretty big salamanders army there for a long while. That was kind of my go-to army. I don't know when exactly I sold off the Dark Angels. It wasn't right away though. And then after that, I actually did a Blood Ravens army for a while, because I was like, you know what, this is, the Dark Angels are the first that got me on the tabletop, but Blood Ravens were my introduction to Warhammer. So I wanted to do like a little homage army to them. So I had that for a while. And then I just had a bunch of like different things here and there over the time. And then eventually I was like, Horus Heresy was kind of kicking off more, and I was like, I wanted to get into that. So I actually had bought a bunch of stuff, and I was like, and I at the time too, I was like, I'm going to redo my whole Salamanders army in more of the Horus Heresy dark olive kind of green, because I like that color scheme a little bit more. So that was the plan, and I had a new basing way to do it, and it looked great. So I was like, just perfect. Yeah, so I redid my Salamanders army basically, and then, like I said, kind of financial things and family and all that kind of stuff comes up, and I ended up having to part with a lot of my stuff at the time. So Salamanders got sold. Dark Angels at some point had been sold, and Blood Ravens, all of it, like basically sold, right? So, yeah. I don't really know where else, but then it was 2016 or 17 when I want to say it was 16 when they first were rumors that there was these new Space Marines coming out, new edition. They're going to be getting rid of the current Marines, and there's a whole, I don't know, controversy is quite the right word, but essentially controversy. And then the first images of like one of the first Primaris Marines like was officially released, and then somebody had like photoshopped it into Buzz Lightyear colors. A lot of people were doing a bunch of different Photoshop things, but one of them was the Buzz Lightyear color scheme, and I was like, that looks awesome. And that basically started me down the road of like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do a custom chapter so that way I don't have to have a bunch of different armies all the time. I can just, as my play styles change or evolve, or I've never been a meta chaser because, like I said, I'm not that highly good at the competitive side of it. So it wasn't really that, but I did want that flexibility in a way to be able to, if I needed to, pivot accordingly to a different play style or whatever. So I was like, this would be perfect. Then I can just like, oh, they're Salamanders, Raven Guard, Ultramarines, whatever successors, just kind of go with it. So that was kind of the beginning birth of the Star Commanders. More specifically, they're based off of the Buzz Lightyear Star Command show, not Toy Story, which, if you don't know, you definitely go YouTube, search that, and watch that series. It is amazing. It's sad that I guess there's a bunch of different behind the scenes kind of legal things, and I don't know, I guess Pixar, it was more of a Disney thing, and Pixar didn't fully approve of it, so that's why they kind of try to retcon it with the Lightyear movie that came out a few years back that flopped pretty hard. They really should have just leaned into more of the cartoon stuff, the lore, the world build. It was amazing. It was really cool. So that's what I base it on, because I also, again, building different homages and things into that army. All the shoulder pad iconography, weapon squad, stuff like that is very Dark Angels inspired. Like, I use the same tactical double arrows for them. I use the exploding symbol for like the heavy support stuff. Like, I still use all that, just in a different color. But then I never really played Blood Angels, but I liked how they also had helmet color differences, and then that was a way that I could further incorporate the TV show into the army. So using the helmet colors to symbolize different characters from the show. So like your basic troops and stuff like that were purple, right? Buzz Lightyear. But then there's other characters like Booster. He was a big red alien dude, and the new jump packs on the intercessors, or not inceptors, were giant and huge, just like his. So they all got the red helmets. So that basically became my fast attacks get red helmets in homage to Booster. For heavy, I did black helmets, and I don't really remember why, other than I think I just wanted something that looked a little bit more, I don't know, tactical or something at the time, or like, oh no, I remember now. That was actually supposed to be like an homage to my salamanders because of the ashen heads that they have. So that was my thought there. And then since they have all the meltas and flamers and stuff, I like, that's why they have the black helmet. So again, kind of trying to incorporate the salamanders into the army as well a little bit. So that was kind of that. All right, let's slather on some Nolan oil here. And I need to get going on some of the rest of this stuff. I'm gonna probably gonna do the bluing effect on this heat pads up here. I don't know what color to do these missiles. I've been trying to kind of figure that out. They definitely need to be something. I don't want to do more red. I've got plenty of red on here from the weapons casings. I'm not sure. I was thinking maybe yellow, but I don't know. Maybe, I don't know, maybe green. Or maybe nothing. Maybe I'll just leave them this silver color. That's kind of wash it. I might just leave them this kind of gunmetal color with that wash in there. They don't look too bad, and I don't want to detract too much overall from the rest of the model. So, all right, here I'm just going to slather in Nolan oil. Yeah, so I guess that's kind of it really for my journey, if you will, into 40K. Kind of a lot, the different things, and like I said, now I'm kind of been wanting to, when they came out with the new Deathwing. I actually had at one point tried to do a whole Deathwing. I had gotten a secondhand Land Raider and was repainting it and had a whole kind of Deathwing only army. I'd played it a few times, but I never fully painted them. They only ever got probably nothing past Xandri Dust base coating. Yeah, so like I said, never really got them fully painted before Dark Angels had to go somewhere else. So when they came out, this new one's like, I want to rebuild my Deathwing, which is kind of funny because, you know, one of the things that drew me to the Dark Angels was the color, right? Green. And then the Deathwing are all in this bone armor. But they're just so cool, right? They're Terminators and all that. And I can add in these green accents and things like that. And I do, you know, you kind of have to have some green wing anyway, especially with how the game's played now with objectives and things like that. And I honestly, 11th just coming out, I don't really know what has changed or what hasn't, but you know, what I have right now is kind of, I remember I think you had a minimum 3 troop choices in your army build, was always kind of the minimum. And if you took Belial, I want to say he made your Terminators, or at least your Deathwing Terminators, troop choices. So that was a way you could field a complete, full Deathwing army and meet that kind of requirement. But that being said, I mean, so I always had minimum, and I always try to keep it somewhat cheap. I always have like a 2 5-man tactical squad, and then a squad of my scout snipers, because they were considered troops. So then that was my like 3 have to takes. Kept them small on the points so I could take more elite stuff. I don't know if that was a good idea or not. Maybe I should have went heavy on troops. I don't know, but that's kind of what I did. And so kind of continuing that right now, other than my Inceptors, which hopefully are cool. The times I've used them with my Star Commanders, they've always been pretty good to be able to drop in anywhere. And, you know, so have the Plasma variants because, you know, Dark Angels, Plasma, got to go with it. I should take these off so I can get underneath here. Yeah, so I got actually 2 5-man intercessor squads, so kind of the new age tacticals, and a scout squad again, but not scout snipers, because I guess you can't really take a full squad of snipers anymore, which is kind of unfortunate, because that was always cool. But I also, I guess, in like real world stuff, like, you know, I guess scout snipers are kind of not a thing anymore, but it wasn't like a whole platoon of people with sniper rifles running around. So it kind of makes sense having like heavy weapons, regular support Marines, and you know, like your, you know, guy with Auspex scanners, maybe your sergeant or spotter or whatever you want to call them. So anyway, let's do this. So yeah, so I don't know, like I mean, it's also there. I guess you can take them in kill team, and the scouts, like they're still probably my favorite, and with the update too, they're even cooler. Like they're my probably favorite uh kit. Like I love the scouts. Um, Specifically, I love the old scout sniper kit because you get all the sniper rifles and the camo cloaks on everybody. Uh, but really, like the new kit, even the old kit where you didn't get like just the scouts without all that stuff was just, I don't know. It's just something about it, and just I guess too, I try to, I don't know, maintain some version of humility to where I'm like, if I was in the army, I would probably just be a scout. I don't try to like make all this. Oh, I'm a whatever character. I know some people put their characters or put themselves somehow into their army. I've actually not ever technically done that, although um funny enough, this doing this Dark Angels project, um my boys have been definitely poking their head in and wanting me to build and paint them models and things and stuff too. So at least for now, I actually have two of the scouts painted as each one of them. So that's kind of neat in that regard. They love it, and then they're like, "Dad, you gotta have a character too. You gotta be in there too." So I've kit bashed up. It's not like anything super crazy, but I did kit bash myself up a sniper as well, um, or a scout as well. And I say sniper because I gave him the sniper rifle, which that is one thing. Like I kind of like. I guess you could say it's kind of cringe, maybe. Like everybody always wants to be like the coolest guy in the team or whatever, and I don't know. Like I don't know. I love the sniper rifle thing. Now I already used the two camo cloaks that come with the kit, and I could green stuff with cloak on my guy, but I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna do a few other things just to make him kind of cool and stand out more. I still do need to green stuff a mustache on him since I have a mustache. Um, but yeah, it's pretty cool. It's not painted or anything. I actually have it right here. Yeah. So added a little pouch, some grenades on them, put a couple antennas on there, a couple extra purity seals, got knife rope, got his little codex book right there and everything. And he's bald with bionic eye. And yeah, that's my character, I guess. um, so I only built 5 of the models in this scout box, so I have another 5, so I could still build up another squad because I'm pretty sure I have to look, but I think you can only take one sniper per squad, whether it's 5 or 10. So even if I was to build 10 to make a 10-man squad, like I can only still take one sniper. So um yeah, he'd have to be his own, or like in a different squad for me to be able to actually field him. So yeah. Anyway, that is that. I don't know how many people do that. I'd be interested if you want. Drop in the comments if you've made it this far in the video and have heard my ramblings. But yeah, definitely drop if you put yourself in your armies. Do you have a character, persona, alternate personality, whatever that you throw in there? It'd be kind of interesting to see. I was actually watching a battle report on tabletop. What was it? Play on tape, or yeah, play on, right? And one of their bat reps in 40 minutes, and it was Josh, I want to say his name is. He's the big towel guy, and he was playing. I don't even remember what kind of army he was. Oh, Grey Knights, and one of the, I don't know, it was a battle suits of some kind, had like a human in it, like with the patch open, like cheering or whatever, and it was like a custom head and everything, probably 3D scanned and printed of him. And his opponent was like, "Did you put yourself in the army?" And he was like, "Yep, you sure did." And he's like, the hubris or whatever. And I just thought it was kind of funny. But then he actually said he's in his army a couple times and pointed out some other unit or something where I guess he's got another version of himself in there. So I don't know. I thought it was interesting. I might try to do something like that. Like, I got the scout version, and then maybe after make like Battle Brother and a intercessor squad or something, make a version of that. I can't remember. Like, it used to be like a more clear progression. I'm not really sure how they do it now. I'd have to look more into the lore, but it was Space Marines. You started out as scouts, and then you became an actual Devastator Marine first before you were onto a tactical squad, which I don't know if there's some kind of version of that still that happens or what, but that was kind of the way it worked in the past. So, man, washes really help kind of just bring everything together for sure. Now, I was planning on doing some streaking grime. I still don't know if I want to do that though. I tried to do a little bit on the Land Raider, and I found like the way I'm painting these, it just doesn't really fit necessarily. It doesn't look the best. So, yeah. All right. Well, so I haven't been able to film nearly as much as I would like to, but maybe that's a good thing. Um, just because like kids coming in and out and a lot of that. So, but in this last 6 hours or so, hasn't been quite six, I've kind of been able to almost finish these dreadnoughts. I would say this one is completed. I actually just realized I didn't paint this little cog in the back, which is kind of eh. I'm working on this last one right here. Add a little bit of what do you call it? Overspray, whatever. Kind of trying to get an effect because I got these cool shooting, whatever effects from, oh my goodness, Deadly Print Studios, I believe it is. Don't quote me right now. I'll have to look them up again. But yeah, they make a lot of great, cool effects like this. So I've gotten quite a few of these. I've used them on my Tau for plasma and other stuff like that. So I'm going to do that on here. Actually going to have this. I'm going to kind of see here. So this will be this gun shooting, and then this is like a Melt-A-Blast one right here. So that'll look something like that when it's all said and done. I'm going to try to do something that had a little bit of depth in here. I don't know. Hopefully I don't end up ruining these. I think it'll work. But I'm going to take, let's see here. The nuclear white is a little bit watery, more watery. And I'm going to kind of almost like I've seen where you take like the oil paints and you make kind of a whitewash. I'm going to do kind of the same, but instead I'm going to take this water around where I want the recesses to kind of be with the white and kind of like put it in there so I can kind of get it in there so it flows where I want. I'm going to take a little bit of that, and then I'm just going to kind of dab it in there. And then the idea being if I can move it around a little bit so it doesn't get too concentrated. Maybe add a little bit more. This is a little bit too. And then kind of thin it out even more as I go into the darker orange. Because the source for the light, right, you want to be brighter toward where like the actual, I guess, explosion type of thing is happening. And then it kind of should fan out accordingly. I don't want to go too up there. All right, I don't know. I don't want to go too crazy. I don't want to mess up too much. I think that's pretty nice. Once it dries, it should have a little more kind of depth to it. Yeah, so we'll go with that. Oh, oops, I want to add the water to this part first. These little things here. right. And then this one, kind of wick away some of it. All right. Yeah. So, like I was saying, I think before, I don't think, unfortunately, I'm going to make my 24-hour challenge by a long shot. But I also don't want to sacrifice the quality of it. And so far, like, just putting the Land Raider and then having these other dreadnoughts pretty much finished, like, next to my green wing that's completed, like, it's looking pretty awesome. I'm very pleased. This is definitely going to be one of my highest painted armies I've ever had. So I don't know if I'm going to continue to grow them past this. I probably will, but it's going to be a very slow grow. Like I said, I don't want to like be inundated with a ton of models and stuff. And just kind of get what I got. I still have more Terminators actually to paint that I'm not putting in this army, because just from trying to take them to a competitive thing. Like, it's not a super competitive list, but things like having the Cyclone missile launchers on your Terminators instead of plasma, while plasma being very thematic to the Blood Angels, it's good to have a little bit more long range kind of ability. Plus, you get to keep. Well, let me look at my plasma. I don't remember, did plasma get to keep their power fist? Yes, they do. Okay, so I guess I would have lost a power fist, but having more power fists in there is always good. Okay, I don't know. I think I'm gonna stop there before I get too much and then it doesn't look right. All right, so kind of let that dry just a little bit here. While that's drying, I'll try to correct. I might just use some tire black on it real quick. Quickly just fill in these back. Set this over here. Back cog thing. I can never remember which half is supposed to be like the black and which one's supposed to be whatever, but I'm gonna quickly kind of fill it in. Not gonna go super. I'm being careful, but also not like trying to be like super perfect with it, just because yeah, it's kind of a last minute little detail. It's kind of like whatever. There, that's pretty much it. I'm just gonna keep it the same kind of khaki bone color, which I still need to do that on this one as well. Another thing I didn't do on some of my green wing that I'll have to go back and do, and I should do on these, is I didn't try to paint any words on the purity seals, which I probably should do, because to go this much detail on everything and then to leave out something as small as that, kind of making it seem incomplete almost. Like you have everything great and then it's almost like going through all this effort and then not drilling out your barrels. I just always hated trying to do this because I don't feel like it just looks like improper lines to me. Like, I know they say like big little tiny dots and squiggles and things like that, but I can never, just, I don't know, it never looks quite natural enough to me when I've attempted to do this. So it's probably my least favorite thing, is trying to paint words on purity seals. Yeah, as you can see here, as I struggle to do something that looks like natural writing. On my other dreadnought, there was a decal I put on this side below the Deathwing symbol that was like some words and stuff. And I love when I can find little tiny decals of words, scrolls, whatever, just because then it looks great and it does add a lot of character to your model. Dang, I really messed up that one. Yeah, I tried to go ultra thin, use just the tip, and ultra thin my paints, but sometimes it can get too runny, and then it gets one like wrong mistake, all of a sudden you get like a big splotch. And because it is so thin, it does dry pretty quickly, so you don't really have a lot of, I don't know, time to really adjust. Dang it. I've gotten some little pens before too. Those have their pros and cons as well. Dang, that one too just looks like a line. All right, I don't know if that's readable, how it looks. I mean, they always say like you want to do like the 3-foot test, like hold it out, arm's length away, 3 feet away. You know, what does it look like? Does it pass that test? Then you're fine. Which, from that angle, I'm sure, but it's just one of those things too. Like, whenever you're painting things, like, it's kind of comes down to like like no one else might know, but I know. All right, actually, it reminds me I have a lot of purity seals that come on this one, so I should knock these out while I got the paint out. So I always have a hard time like, what do I like painting? Sometimes it's good just to like change it up because I like love painting little infantry guys, all the characters, all the little bits and bobs you can add to them to add character. But then also it's cool to do vehicles and these dreadnoughts and stuff because they're bigger models, they're a little bit easier to handle. And I feel like as you're painting, you get kind of I don't know, you get almost like a quicker payoff. It seems like you're getting somewhere quicker with them, I guess. Because sometimes there can be just so many little things on the little models that you're kind of get lost in the details. It's just kind of like, oh, I got this to do yet. I still got this to do. And these, it just, I don't know. It kind of seems more completed quicker, maybe. But that just might be a me thing. I'm not sure, but this is. So I've done some commissioning work and stuff in the past. I still do from time to time as my schedule permits, and I try to, I've tried different things. Like when I first wanted to open up for commissions, I tried to do like a tier system, and that just got to the point where I was just like, you know what, I don't really like that. I'm just gonna go like, hey, this is what I do. Look at what I like, but I'm painting to my highest quality no matter what. Like I have one standard because it kind of came to the thought for me anyway is if I'm gonna be painting and something's gonna be somewhat attached to my work, I want it to be my best work. I don't like even if it's like, oh yeah, so and so painted these and I did their lowest tier. Like I don't know what is gonna get communicated or not, and I would rather it be my best work that's getting put out there. And my best work at the time, like I've definitely improved techniques over time, um, and so things definitely change. All right, so I think we're gonna call these good. So I just glued them on this old paintbrush handle and make it a little bit easier. And we'll take them off. All right, now the fun part. What does it look like once I get it on here? Okay. I have to do a little bit of touch up probably, but that's fine. So this one can go on. There's nothing else. The other ones I think I might have to cut a little bit. So for this, using some gel super glue. These things are cool for sure, but one thing I've learned is there's definitely not enough glue in there. I thought that was gonna be too much. I don't want to put too much or I get too, I don't want it to like over press all over the model. Okay, let that kind of set a little bit. So, I don't know. I think it looks pretty good so far. So I'll do a little bit of cleanup. I think a little bit of paint actually came off. So let that dry, and then I'm gonna do a little bit more to that, kind of help protect it more. Yeah, I was saying something, I can't remember what I was saying now. So these ones I have to cut a little bit so they fit better. Because part of it is a little bit too long. Let me get my little clippers here. I'll probably just do this one. See what that does. Okay, what else is touching there? Okay, I think it's this one. I'm trying to cut this at an angle. All right, had to briefly pause. Had a little incident with one of the kids. They had a little accident cooking some muffins. They're okay, but just got like a little tiny burn trying to get some muffins out of the oven. But like I said, they're all right. So, got these on. Now, I guess I need to touch them up a little bit. I feel like, I don't know, I think it needs a little bit more, but I'm also a little bit worried about overdoing it. So I'm just gonna try to take a little bit of red and just very lightly try and dry brush this helps tie in the oranges and the yellows a little bit more. I do think that helps some. Should get a little bit more. It's almost too dry. I don't want to overdo it, but so I think part of what I was gonna say was these effects are really cool, but sometimes with like this one in particular, I'm going to be very careful transporting, maneuvering this model because I don't want it to like break off, because that is One of the things, because it usually extends over the model, I have to get a smaller dry brush, I think, for this one. So yeah, you got to be kind of careful in that regard. But yeah, I do think that does help. I am not exactly happy though with this effect on the actual melting gun itself. It's not, I don't know. It's lacking something. I'm not quite sure what. I'll try this Magna stuff. Maybe it just needs a little bit more. I don't know. It's just seeming to, and the other thing I don't know, that it's kind of looking almost green. So I'm gonna put some of this in these little vent holes, and then I'm gonna try to put a little bit of white and see maybe if I can create kind of a glowing heat effect going on in here. Like this is charged up, and it's, you know, hopefully. This is kind of the tricky thing sometimes, trying out new things and stuff, is now I feel like I may have messed this up, or now I gotta like spend extra time trying to fix this. Man, I am not doing good on this side. I'm all over the place. Let's see if I can clean it up a little bit. All right. Maybe. All right, let that dry a little bit, and then let me come back here. I try and dry brush this a little bit. I gotta try brush here. I might need more glue on this piece here. It does not seem to be holding very well. The other one as well is kind of holding. Mine actually as well. A little bit there, a little bit there on the underside. That should hold this one then pretty good. Get a good angle on it. Okay. And then this one, so that's kind of a tricky thing sometimes when you're gluing stuff after everything's painted. You don't really want the glue to kind of overdo it, but also because like it can either, if it's plastic glue, it can come out and mess up your paint job, and then if it's super glue, it comes out globs, and then can like have like this weird, I don't know, frosted looking effect to it. Okay, I think that's about where Okay, well, kind of already having that issue now. Just trying to do my best here. Okay. And then, I mean, you can kind of sometimes blend it in, like with this, with the kind of globbed eye, I can still make it look like a part of the initial kind of like explosion part coming out of the round or whatever, but it does sometimes make it trickier for other times. Red paint is sometimes the hardest to clean out of brushes and stuff, and it always seems to just consistently remain behind. So, all right, overall not too horrible. I guess I'm going to tweak this a little bit more, and then I think I'll call this one done. I really got to get moving. I'm at 13 hours 51 minutes left right now. All right, time to start getting into the, I guess, main meat and potatoes, and get the Deathwing Terminators actually going. So for this army, the way I have it set up right now is I have 2 5-man Death Knight squads. One has the maces and the other has power swords. I think the maces are probably more powerful, but I just like the look of both, so I just did one squad as power swords, one with the mace. And then currently I have a 5-man squad. Just this, as you see right here, and then a 10-man that has the 2 Cyclone missile launchers in it, as like my big, hard to move, lots of firepower, hitting power kind of brick. I also have, kind of off to the side, I still have 2 more sergeants, which I'm kind of kicking myself a little bit right now. I kind of wish I would have primed and got this guy ready, because the sergeant I have in the 10-man squad has just got a power sword, doesn't have the power fist. Again, I like the power sword just because they look cool, but power fist is usually, you get more, damage out of it. But yeah, whatever, it is what it is. So I still have 2 more of these sergeants. These are just what I have currently left in my Angels army that I haven't really assembled or put together. I've got the 2 plasma cannon guys, because why not? They're Dark Angels after all, and Dark Angels like their plasma. So eventually I would like to get these, up and painted, but as I said earlier, didn't put them in this just because the missile launchers get a bit more range. Then I have 1 extra just regular Terminator. I also have a Terminator Chaplain for the Dark Angels as well, for the Deathwing, but again, didn't fit him in this list, so didn't bother priming him. And then I have 1 just 3-man Inner Circle Companions, just because, again, they're pretty cool and I want to paint them. But with them, I'm still trying to figure out, I hate painting black armor. I can't ever figure out a good, decent way to do it. But I think I'm probably going to co-opt Eons of Battle, his way that he does black armor for his Black Templars. I'm probably going to make kind of that same mixture that he does, do a Zenithal, and then do it like that. Now, granted, these guys are mostly covered in robes anyway, but I don't know. I think that would just be the best. And also, I was just looking at this guy here in his pose. He'd make a really cool base to make a Ezekiel upgraded conversion, because as far as I think he's the only Dark Angels character that hasn't gotten an update. Like, all the rest have gotten updates except Ezekiel. So anyway, that's just kind of my extra. So I have 9 extra models that aren't even primed or anything. And I have a whole other Belial on sprue yet that I'll probably end up trying to sell, because I had gotten 2 of the Deathwing box sets when they came out. But yeah, so the first things I need to figure out is just a good way to do this. So I'm just going to start with these 5, and then hopefully I can get a good rhythm and get a good idea, and then work into the next 10, and hopefully it'll go fairly quickly. So I've kind of laid out most of my colors I think I'm going to need. I can kind of shift up a little bit. So I think, like I said, with any time you're going to paint or anything, especially like a time challenge kind of thing, it's always good to come up with somewhat of a game plan. So I think I kind of have an idea, and what I like to do usually is start with, like, if I'm going to do the undersuit, you know, start with that maybe, and work my way up. But for these, I think what I'm going to start with is some edge highlighting first, and then pick out a few spots, like probably like this chest piece here and a few other things, and basically get these painted up. So then that way I can do like the damage chipping that I want to do, and then from there start painting the rest of the details and stuff. And then at the very end, well, not at the very end, before I do the damage chipping, I actually I'm going to try this sepia wash thing, and we'll kind of see potentially how that goes, which, you know, I've been looking for it. I must have kept them somewhere else. I can't find my Deathwing that I did. But I did like kind of a very deliberate shade, and it's kind of hard because you kind of have to babysit them. So doing it for a batch painting might not work, because you really don't want the shade to pool at all. You really want it to kind of dry and give kind of that same gradient shading effect. Now, I'm debated. I could potentially try and do that with the airbrush, but I'm not too sure I want to do that, because I want it to be kind of more deliberate. But I don't know. I gotta think this through a little bit more. Just I might do it for the airbrush just to save time, and then I don't have to babysit and worry about pooling. So I may actually just run this through the airbrush and try to do a very deliberate shade, but I don't know. It makes me nervous to do that, because I really don't want it. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to figure that out. But all right, well, let me dive in a little bit more here and then figure this out. All right, so I decided to do just the shade pretty much straight on. However, I did do a quick gloss varnish, just to kind of smooth out, since I had that kind of issue with the powdery base coat. Now I am kind of watering this down significantly and just kind of brushing it on all over. I'm kind of doing sections at a time so I can kind of control it a little bit better. So I'm doing like kind of the front. If I get any on like over where I'm not trying to go right now, I'll just kind of go back and wipe it off real quick. But seems to be working fairly well. I think I'm getting what I want done with it. And then if it gets on like up here, so I'll put quite a bit on, but I'll just do it kind of quick, kind of force it down a little bit, and then try to push the pooling down a little bit more to where I want it to go. Then I'll kind of get a little bit of water on my brush and just kind of like tap it and water it down a little bit more, and just it kind of like naturally will flow down to create that kind of gradient that I'm trying to get. Yeah. So then that's what I'm going to do, dry that up, and then I'm going to start doing some edge highlighting real quick. Nothing too crazy, just like basic like top surfaces, because with any edge highlighting, it can take a long time to do, but also like sometimes too much can be too much. Like I'm going for more of a, I guess you call it like the grim dark aesthetic, if you will, a more battle damage, battle worn, instead of like that, what they call like the heavy metal box art kind of style. So because of that, I don't need to like edge highlight all over, and sometimes like I said, like sometimes it looks cool to clean, you know, every edge is highlighted kind of thing, but at the same time, like that's not necessarily natural, because edge highlighting then without any battle worn as well can just seem like somehow every panel is getting some kind of light or something or whatever. But anyway, so that's my thoughts on that, kind of why I don't need to go too crazy with it all. Yeah. And like I said, the gloss is helping just to kind of like, if I didn't do that, I think a lot of the parts where it got kind of speckly and kind of like a dust kind of texture, the paint would get soaked into those things because it's trying to fill those gaps in between the paint. So by doing that gloss varnish, I've kind of like essentially did that for it already, and then it gives the shade an easier, kind of smoother path of travel, if you will. So just gonna go through these real quick and get them all shaded up. All right, so all the, I guess, shading is done. I don't know if you can really tell. I didn't have to babysit it too much. I think it turned out all right. I did some edge highlighting really quick. Some of it you can't really tell, some of it you can. Either way, kind of the point, I guess. And then I just went ahead and blocked in a few of the colors, mostly just the green on the chest and the red, because I'm going to do some battle damage, and those would be kind of part of the battle damage. I guess this shoulder pad technically could take it too, but for now, I'm just going to leave it as is, and then I'm going to do some battle damage. Then I'm going to probably go through and block in my lead belcher stuff, just so that way it makes it easier for the guns to have them all lead belchered, because then I do the casing, then after that over the lead belcher. It's pretty straightforward. After that, probably do the Crux Terminatus symbol on them, factor in any other metallics like these knee things. Will probably be Brass Scorpion, Skull will be lead belcher, and then highlight it up with Retributor armor. Yeah. So, and then I had the eyes and lenses and stuff. So it actually might be fairly quick to quickly kind of knock these guys out, maybe, hopefully. So if that goes well, then I have a pretty good way forward for the other 10. And then the Deathwing Knights I'm a little bit concerned with, because while they're similar, they have a lot more going on as far as the bling they're wearing, the robes they have, that kind of stuff. So there's a little bit more or less that I got to do to them versus these kind of more just standard Marines. All right, I'm going to call this first squad completed, and I've got about 10 hours left. So I definitely don't think I'm going to make it unless I can really turn and burn on the next squad of 10. If I can get those done in 5, that'll leave me 5 hours to do basically either 5 or all 10 of the Deathwing Knights. And honestly, it's probably going to take me 5 hours just to do one squad, which would mean that I would have another squad, the Ancient and Belial, left to do, which isn't too bad. But obviously I would have liked to get it all done, but that's a good chunk done. And then we'll kind of see if I end up having to go into overtime, which I think I will, but if I do, we'll see how much extra time that'll take. The first time I ever do a squad, it always takes longer, and then once I get kind of the process down, it goes quicker. So I think I can probably get these next knocked out pretty quickly. The next 10, it'll just be, we'll just have to see. Hopefully I can, but then yeah, we'll go from there. But the reason why I don't think I'll be able to get all 10 Deathwing Knights done is just, like I said, kind of figuring out a little bit. Like mostly I'll have to be kind of figuring out the shields and robes and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, and I also just never thought I would probably get Belial and the Ancient done, just because they are kind of centerpiece models. I don't want to like super rush on them anyway. So Yeah, so that's where we're at. So overall, making decent progress, and I do like the way these turned out. The rims right now are just kind of drying a little bit, but other than that, they are completed, and I think turned out pretty nicely. Look pretty good. So, all right. All right, diving into the final hours here. It looks like I got about 9 hours left. And I'm kind of taking a quick pivot on this 10. I'm just gonna do I'm doing a dry brush instead of a edge highlight. A lot of that is because time, save time, but then also I noticed I couldn't really tell too much on the ones I edge highlighted that there was an edge highlight. Some of that is, well, a lot of that is because the color I have that I'm using, this Flayed One Flesh, is a little bit too similar to my highest value on here. So yeah, unfortunately it doesn't read very well. There will still be a few places I'm going to choice, kind of pick out that I know will help highlight it some, but yeah, so I don't want to spend a whole ton of time just going through and trying to hit all the edges on these. Instead, I'm just going to do just some quick, basic dry brushing on it here to kind of get the point across. And I think it's doing the job that I want it to do. And then once I put in some weathering with the sponge effect, it kind of should help bring everything together more. So I think that works. So hopefully too, that'll help me save some time off of what I did on the 5-man squad, and still everything will cohesively work together. I guess I'm going fairly quick on these because it's not as big of a deal, except in the deeper shadows I have on here that you can definitely make it out. But I'm definitely trying to focus on kind of the face and body, because that's always a focal point of a miniature, and then kind of going around a little bit more on the edges. So anyway, so far though, it's I love when an army really starts coming together. Having my completed models all next to each other right now, and my green wing that I had already painted before I started the 24-hour challenge is already looking pretty awesome. So I'm excited. I've been getting a few more people following on Instagram, which is great. My stuff kind of ebbs and flows between what I'm posting, what kind of models and stuff I'm painting, and right now it's just inundated with all this Dark Angel stuff, which I know some people can get turned off by I'm not interested in Dark Angels or whatever. So I try to keep it changing, try to keep my, I don't even call it portfolio or what I'm working on, kind of wide, but it can get really expensive trying to do that. So I'm trying to consolidate things down, but then when I can, I'll pick up some secondhand stuff, strip it down, try to paint, or if I can find some other cheaper ways, just to get some variety out there, so I'm not just always painting Space Marines or always painting Dark Angels or whatever. So I'm definitely going to keep looking to do that, and every now and again when I have time and I'm able to take on commissions or someone reaches out and I do have the time to do that, I love doing that, just from the standpoint of a lot of times I get to paint stuff I've never painted before. I used to have one guy when I was here before, I guess he's kind of a regular, and would have me paint up some crazy models that I would have never had before. Granted, I'm fairly positive they were kind of like the other story I was telling, they were bootleg ones. I don't think they were actually the original, because a lot of them were big Forge World models and stuff, but they were like, the resin was always a little bit off. There was like one I did was a, what is that big tier in the hydrophont, I think, or something like that. Yeah, that one, it stunk like some, you know, cheap knockoff resin or something. It was just, yeah. So, but so I would not do that myself, like buy some knockoff ones just to have to paint. But if someone commissions me to paint something and I can't really, and it's not really my place anyway to authenticate the authenticity of the model I'm given to paint, just give it to me and I paint. So, dang, I did not get enough off on this one. Just kind of streaking. All right. But anyway, so yeah. So, yeah, if you find yourself here for the first time, again, if you made it this far, appreciate it. As I'm doing this, I'm like, this is gonna be my biggest kind of project video, whatever. And I think I'm gonna end up actually have to break this into a few videos. Just like I said, it's not gonna be straight. It's gonna be cut down. Some parts will be sped up. I may be doing re-voicing of what I'm saying just because I don't know how well the audio is doing and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of this will have probably been posted. You'll probably have seen a lot of this stuff already before the video comes out. So but this just kind of, I guess, will hopefully add a little more context, a little more content, engage people more. You know, I guess, you know, I'm a very introverted person, I guess. So I guess this is as extroverted as I get, is talking into the void, as they say. I've met a few people here and there that have seen my work before, especially when I'm at places like Nova or something like that. Someone might recognize my work and they'll be like, oh snap. I actually remember, like, I think it was my second year, or maybe it was at least my second. I don't think it was my first year, but actually, and I had like a shirt that I wear that has like my Paintmarine stuff on there, and somebody saw, like, I think it was one of my Lightyear Marines in the display case, and then they turned around and like saw, because I think they'd already followed me online, and then they saw my shirt. They're like, oh snap, you're the Paintmarine. So that was cool. Like, I'm not at all anything, but then I'm always like very socially awkward then at that point, because I'm like, oh yeah, hey, what's going on? And then that's kind of where I stop. Which is kind of, I think maybe most people in this hobby space are like that, somewhat more introvert. And so a game like this and stuff like this helps kind of like break out of that shell, if you will. So yeah, so hopefully if I'm able to get this done and actually get in some games, and then hopefully I can get up to Nova and get in either the grand tournament, which I'm not like a super huge competitive player, but I like the grand tournament from the standpoint of the army showcase part of it. I like putting my models on. I have a pretty cool idea for a board this year that's kind of something I've been working on for a while now. It's kind of changed its trajectory quite a few times to what it was, what it is going to be, and what I have potentially planned now to display this army if it goes. At the very least, I'll have it definitely for Armies on Parade at Games Workshop, which I haven't participated in one of those in a little while. Well, I say a little while, actually. Was it last year I actually did with the Votan army I had, or the year before? It was the year before that. When I went to, the last time I went to Nova, after I took the Votan army, and then after that it was my Ice Planet themed, Lego Ice Planet themed Votan. I took, and I made a pretty quick, easy board, and actually smaller than the standard 2x2 that they allow, because I wanted it to be able to fit on my little cart that I have that I take around at Nova. And yeah, it worked really well. And I actually got, oh, I can't remember. I got 2 medals because I don't remember how they're doing Armies on Parade nowadays, but I ended up getting 2 medals. One was, I mean, I know there were 4, I just don't remember what order they were. One was a silver and one was a bronze, and one of them was for board and the other was for the actual army. And I think it was silver for the army and bronze for the board. Or I guess it could have been the other way around, but I feel like it was that way. I'm not 100% though. But anyway. Alright, so this will be the last dry brush, and then I'm going to take a brush and just pick out a few more specific edges. And then I think we'll be good on that. So should hopefully speed up a bit of the time and hopefully still look good. So after that, I'm going to get a few, all right, I'm going to get this actually wet now and kind of clean it off. Yeah, get a few more highlights on it, and then I'm going to do some weathering, and then just start picking out all the different details on these. So, alright, here we go. Alright, into the home stretch here. Got 3 hours, 43 minutes, 12 seconds left, and have 12 miniatures left to do. 10 Death Knight, an Ancient, and Belial. Making a decision here before I start. I was thinking maybe I could just batch paint them all and see how many base layers I could get. Then I was like, well, maybe I'll just do all the Deathwing Knights, the maces, and the swords together and see how far I can get. And then I'm ultimately deciding I'm going to just do them in 5-person batches. So I'm going to do this squad of 5 maces, then the 5 swords, then the Ancient, and then Belial will be the last I do. That way I can just give him a whole lot of extra love and attention. I actually have a cool idea that I want to try. I don't know if it's going to work, but as of right now, my plan is, stick with the purple bases, obviously, because that's kind of my, I guess, basing scheme I'm going with. So purple bases, those cool alien flowers from Gamer's Grass, what are they called? Or Alien Tufts. Alien Blood Moon is the ones I'm using. Put a couple of those on there, but the flames on his base, I want to try and see if I can make like a blue flame. So like almost like a plasma fire or something. I think that would look pretty cool with the bone armor, the green robes, the purple, and then you have like this like ethereal kind of blue flames almost. The only potential downside is the power swords I'm planning on doing in blue. So that might, I don't know, might not quite read well, but I just think the blue flames would look better on here with the purple planet versus like your typical fire. And I think that kind of plays into the storytelling of it a little bit more, of it being an alien planet. So maybe the elements, the chemical reactions or whatever work differently, and so the fire is blue, or maybe it's not really like fire as we would call it necessarily, but something else. Anyway, I don't know. That's kind of the idea, the thought behind that anyway. But I definitely want to take my time with this and make it look cool, because this is going to be a centerpiece for this model. Now, one thing I had mentioned, I think I had mentioned maybe earlier in the video, but is that I don't have the lion, the Primarch for this kit. And then I was like, actually, I do. I do have the Horus Heresy one that is in sub-assemblies right now that I got 2 years ago when I was last at Nova. And honestly, I probably just need to build that and use that because I like that model a bit more. I still want to get the other one just because why not? But I could have a Primarch that is a official, not a proxy necessarily, but it is an official Games Workshop model. So I don't know. I may do that. I mean, I'm definitely going to do that down the road, like paint it up and everything. But for right now, This will be pretty much the centerpiece of the model, or the model of the army. And then eventually I want to like start collecting up again all the different characters. Get Azrael, I think, is a must-have, of course. Asmodee, and I think that was it, because they haven't remade Ezekiel. So, but anyway, yeah. So I'm gonna jump into this, and we'll see how far I can get in 3 hours 43 minutes. So, and that's time. So, kind of what I expected, was not able to finish the Deathwing Knights, the Ancient or Belial. Um, didn't even start them, but I did my best to try to get at least a Mace Squad done, and I made really good process. Like probably another hour to 2 hours, I would say, and these guys will be done. So pretty close. I got pretty much all their base layers down. Just got to go back through, hit some highlights, and then do a little bit more work on these maces, and then the bases, and then these will be done. So pretty happy with where they're at. Wish I would have gotten them done, but it is what it is. But now I'm gonna go. I gotta figure this thing out, how I can switch it over to. I think I just want to go to. Because next I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna try to go to overtime and see how long this takes for me to get finished. So I think if I hit that, no, stopwatch. All right, let's do this. Enter. Not sure if I'm doing this right. Don't seem to want to start. Okay, clock, nothing. I don't even know where the sensors on this I'm trying to hit. Maybe if I hold it up like this. Okay. And okay, I think I got it figured out. So, yeah, so I'm gonna start the timer on that once I get into painting again, and we're gonna see how much overtime it takes. Yeah, overall though, I think pretty happy though for a 24-hour period with what I was able to get done, accomplished, and to the standard that I painted everything to. I'm very, very pleased with how everything's turning out, and it's also nice to basically about to have a 2,000 point army done fairly soon. Trying to guess though, with what I have left, I'd probably say easily another 5 hours with the other Deathwing Knights, and probably 3 each at least with the Ancient and Belial. Belial might even be longer because I really want to take my time and put forth my absolute best effort with him. So maybe I'll throw an extra hour there, call it 4. So we're looking maybe 12 more hours, I would say, I think. Which again, if I'm able to do that in basically 36 hours, that would be pretty good to have a whole army done in just 36 hours. So basically almost like a 40-hour work week. To get a 2,000 point army painted is not too bad. All right, well, I will check back in soon. All right, finishing up these finally. I think they look awesome. Turned out great. It was another additional hour and a half, or 2.5 hours. So I can't remember how much longer I said initially, but definitely feel like it was definitely longer than I wanted. But yeah, still waiting for some of the rims of the bases to dry a little bit. But other than that, yeah, I'm very happy with them. I'm really liking how the purple really gives a good contrast and makes them pop. I'm just gonna add some gamer's grass here to them, and then they're done. All right, so still plugging along here in overtime, trying to get these done. So got the last of the Deathwing Knights here, just about finished. Just finishing up his force weapon power sword thing here, and then I got to black all the bases, and then maybe put a few tufts on a couple of them. But just wanted to share. So this is the power weapon right now. I got a pretty decent little gradient effect here, and then I'm just going through and kind of edge highlighting a little bit with some Lorien blue. So I actually based it first in electric blue game air from Vallejo, and imperial blue I put in the airbrush, and then kind of hit the different spots to create the gradient, and it actually worked pretty well. So the force weapons, power weapons, have always been kind of one of those banes of my existence, just like OSL and plasma, which I've kind of started figuring out. And it's kind of like with OSL and plasma effects, and then force weapons, it's like kind of just, it doesn't click until it does. It's kind of hard to explain, but yeah, like I think plasma, I've got a pretty decent way that I go about doing it with the plasma and OSL that works pretty well. I'm still working on my force power weapons. This is probably the best I've been able to do in a good while. The next step to this, though, is while I've gotten this kind of figured out, is to then actually start adding in like the lightning type effects. Like that's going to be my next thing. I tried a little bit on just one of the regular squads. Now I didn't get as good of a force gradient on this one, but anyway, so it was a good practice. I actually used a different color for the darker shade, and it didn't, it wasn't as dramatic of a difference. So I think that's one thing. But I also just didn't really feel like repainting it right now. Like it's decent enough. And then I said, like, I tried to go through a little bit and create in some lightning. It's not the best, not the worst either. So I'm just gonna kind of leave it, instead of continuing to mess with it and then potentially make it even worse. So it's good. And then these ones for now, I'm just doing the edge highlighting. So like here's one that's been highlighted. It's not super different, but like you can see, like it's a pretty significant little change right there. I think it adds a little bit more, defines the shape a little bit better. And overall, I think they look good. I'm happy with them. So I'm just gonna leave them at that for now. So yeah, and then after that, I've got the Ancient and Belial, and then I'll be done. So excited. I'm gonna not do them together. Obviously, I'm gonna separate them out, and I'm gonna start with the Ancient. So he'll be pretty fun to do. I'm probably gonna put him in green robes. I had thought about maybe doing like a burgundy thing, kind of like the Inner Circle Champions. I don't know. I can't really experiment. It's kind of just like one of the others. So I was like, I could set them off to like be a little bit different, put them in kind of burgundy robes. But I think I'm just gonna do green, just again for simplicity's sake. I mean, he's already got the banner and everything else. So the banner, I'm trying to decide if I'm gonna try to paint it green with some Deathwing tans to kind of differentiate, or just keep it tan. I think I'm leaning a little bit more towards just keeping it mostly tan, since it's supposed to be like a Deathwing company banner. Yeah, unsure, but all right, well, let me finish up this last one here. Then I'm going to take my usual photos and my little turntable thing. I do need to get like a better setup hopefully one day with that. It works pretty well with what I got. The biggest thing being I don't have like a thing to hold my camera, so it doesn't stay the steadiest when I'm trying to record it. So you have like these little micro shakes that can be a little off-putting. So I'm trying to be very careful and just get the outermost edge. So one thing, dang, this is getting a little too thick there. And that works. It's still pretty wet. Put too much water on it, so it's not coming off as cleanly. So I found when doing edge highlights and just you just want to lightly come across the edge of the surfaces like this, it's actually better to have a little bit thicker paint. You don't want to have it too watered down. At least that's my experience. It catches the edge better, and then it doesn't like bleed over past the edge. It kind of stays right where you want it on the edge highlight. Now this little surface running down the middle of the blade is always a pain, because it's such a shallow peak that if you go too hard with your dry brush, or your I guess it's kind of a dry brush, with this kind of like light drag across the blade, you could end up getting on the actual body of the blade itself, which you don't want. The other thing I was gonna say is I come in and I definitely try to get this edge here, but you'll notice on like especially the plastic models, they have a very thick cutting edge. It's not like super thin. So it almost has like a flat edge on its cutting edge as well. So I usually, like after I get the very edges, I'll go back and get kind of like that flat edge. Because otherwise, and I don't know if you can really tell on here or not, you can kind of see in the middle there's a little part that's not like painted. So then you just go flat on it and just kind of clean up that edge part there. But if you just do that edge, you actually won't catch the edges that comes up on the body a little bit, because that's what kind of creates that shape that you want. So you do want it to come up on the body a little bit on the very edges, but if not, it won't actually show up there. I gotta be careful. I got a little too much paint on that. Okay, that's not too bad. All right, grab this edge. So as I'm making this last bit here, I'd mentioned in a different video that I was probably gonna start listing stuff on like my Voton, probably my Star Commanders and stuff, and since then I've listed them on my it's called Mini Swap, but it's like Mini Swap GG or something. I actually made a few sales already, and as I've been going through my whole just collection in general, I'm like embarrassingly realizing like I have not just a huge pile of shame, but a lot of FOMO stuff, like FOMO things I was worried about like missing out on getting whatever, which has been a marketing employee of Games Workshop and other places too, but hobby wise we're just talking about Games Workshop right now. And and I definitely have fallen for it numerous times, of course. And then what happened? Those things are sitting unpainted or unused or whatever it is. So I'm like, I feel like, yep, they got me. So, all right, sweet, happy with that. So I'm just gonna put some black on the bases and then call these guys done. You've made it to the end of the 24-hour challenge video.
or parts of. As I'm recording this, I don't know if I'm going to break it up yet or not because it is pretty long. But if I keep it all together, hopefully, either way, if I break it up too, hopefully these videos or video is just something people can put on, kind of have something to listen to and kind of look at every now and again or whatever while they're um, doing their own projects and painting, because I do just have some commentary, just talking about hobby life, whatever. And again, if you're at this part, you've already heard or seen all of that anyway. So that's just, I guess, a little bit behind why I kept it either as one or broke it up. I don't know. But the reason why I'm making this video, and it's kind of weird because you'll see that it kind of cut off without any real conclusion. It just kind of like, and that's time, then I'll have to finish up the rest. And then I completely intended to continue recording. And I thought I had done some more recording, but I can't seem to find that footage if I did. So if I didn't, then I don't know. Anyway, I wanted to come back though and just actually conclude the video and everything that was painted. So all in all, it took me about 36, I want to say it was 36, 38 maybe hours to complete all of the Deathwing units in this Deathwing army. And I'm gonna flip this camera around real quick and we'll take a look at the last bit. So at the conclusion, I still I had a little bit to finish, I believe, on the Deathwing Knights with the mace. And this is kind of in a little bit of the there's a little bit of another video past the when time expired, but and then I started working on the Deathwing Knights with the power swords, and then that's kind of where it ended. Well, I ended up finishing them, of course, and then I spent a decent amount of time on Belial, and the Ancient. I can't remember when I did the Ancient. I think I did the Ancient. Oh, I did the Ancient before Belial. Belial was the very last model I painted. I'm just kind of forgetting at what point did I. Yeah, anyway, this is very unscripted, kind of all over the place. But anyway, let me flip this around and we'll take a look. This also has my Green Wing units that I had already painted earlier in it. So you'll see them in there. That just currently it makes just shy of 2,000 points. But with all these new changes with Space Marines and the stats, we don't know the new points cost yet. And so from what I understand, everything's going to get more expensive because everything's a little bit more tankier and shootier. So there's probably going to have to be some slimming down of the models, unfortunately. Because it's already an elite list, right? Because when you bring a full, mostly Deathwing list, that's an elite unit list you're bringing. So to have to cut it down even more, I don't know. Yeah. All right. So here it is, the 2,000 points of Dark Angels, primarily Deathwing, and like I said, the Deathwing units were the ones that were painted for the 24-hour challenge. The whole point of the challenge wasn't just to see if I could get done in 24 hours, which I was hoping to, but also it was kind of motivation just to get it done, right? And I did want to see like how far I could get, and I got pretty far. And I didn't want to sacrifice like the details and everything else on them. I am extremely happy, if I can get this to focus a little bit here, with how everything turned out. I've posted pictures and some videos of everything once I was complete with it. So very, 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 very happy with how it all turned out. And now I just need to get into stores and start learning how to play 11th edition. Unfortunately, like life situations, stuff happens, haven't been able to get any game time in. So was not able to get this up to go play at Nova. And regardless, there's other tickets I think for other events, but like the Grand Tournament tickets were all sold out. So couldn't have played in that if I wanted to. Probably would have tried to pivot to some other kind of narrative event or something to that nature. But again, like I haven't played really since I think it was the beginning of 10th was the last time I played, and I was playing a Voton army then. So yeah, But anyway, that's the whole army. Very happy with it. Like I said, I probably lean toward more like 38 hours in total to paint just pretty much this and the Land Raider, which I took a decent amount of time on the Land Raider, and then the characters, of course. Once I kind of got like an idea of how to do the Terminators after the first 5, it was pretty quick for the rest. And then the Deathwing Knights just take a little bit extra time because they have a little bit more details and stuff on them and stuff like that. But overall, again, like I said, it went pretty smooth. Very happy. I think it looks great. I really, really can't wait to actually get them on the table somewhere and just, get them playing. So, all right. Well, all that being said, thanks for watching. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, check out the links in the description to check out like Facebook and Instagram where I share a lot of the stuff I'm working on and just a lot of different discussions and things happen there that I try to engage with as much as possible. And appreciate everything. And until next time.